Again, didn't contend with a single argument I made. You just said, why are you acting like a victim? While you're here talking about how women are
You're not
victims.
contending with arguments that other people have made.
It's wild to me.
You're actually interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you when you were spewing your bullshit. So now it's my turn. Okay.
You mean the truth? But I think that the idea of the stoic man is a much better prospect for the idea of like this leftist that I'm arguing with next to me on the panel. I would not want to be that guy, that person who just cannot control their internal emotions. They can't do it.
But honestly, my therapist tells me I need to cry, and it's a good relief.
But the point being, Andrew hasn't cried in 10 years.
I think that is such a weakness, Andrew, that you haven't cried in a decade. Like, that's crazy to me.
My therapist told me I could cry.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew Wilson just detonated a cultural woke warhead on Piers Show, and the fallout is everything you need to see. In no-holds-barred clash over masculinity, duty, and the collapse of traditional values, Wilson eviscerates the left's narrative with brutal logic, exposing the hypocrisy of modern feminism and the silent crisis crippling men. While critics like James Barr screamed about toxic masculinity and sobbed over therapy sessions, Wilson dropped truth bombs. Why should men shoulder society's burden? Drafts, wars, financial pressure, while women face zero accountability. Why are boys bombarded with messages to soften up, while the world still demands they stand unshaken in crisis? Where's the outrage over plummeting birth rates as women prioritize careers over family? This isn't just a debate, it's a war for the soul of masculinity, and Wilson's unapologetical defense of stoicism, strength, and male purpose left the panel speechless. And hey, if you're tired of weak men crying victim and entitled women demanding privilege without sacrifice, stick around. This is the red pill moment you've been waiting for, and the left desperately wants you to look away. Let's go.
So at some point, I think we'll go back to maybe meeting in the middle here. You can be a man who has feelings and emotions, but you can also go to war and protect and defend your family. I'm hoping we can get back there. But the two extremes right now, they're confusing men, and quite frankly, they're leaving women with few choices. And that's the real tragedy here.
You see, I completely agree with you, but Andrew, you were shaking your head quite vigorously. Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just more feminine or feminist nonsense, ultimately. And the covert feminism in society is big, especially on the conservative side. So here's what happens, right? Women need to have feminine virtues for men to be pursuing masculine virtues, for you to say things like, well, men, what I want is for men to protect me and I want men to make money. Well, that's great. What that ends up doing is it gives you a set of privilege in society. What do men get? What do men get for doing that for you? What are we getting from women for doing that? Are we getting chaste virgins on our wedding night? No, we're not getting chaste virgins on our wedding night. Are we getting women of great virtue? No, we're not getting women of great virtue. The idea of courtly love is supposed to be done for women of great virtue. Where are they? Well, they're nowhere. And so in modernity, in society, when female conservative influencers say this, it's actually a form of covert feminism. They're saying, I want privilege in society, right? But what is it women are giving to men to get it? What? What are they giving them? Tell me.
Well,
Can I please chime in here?
Yes, you can. And then James can, and then I'll come to you, Sean.
No, I would love to. I love this whole thing of like, if you're a female conservative and you don't believe that men should be douchebags, that all of a sudden you're a covert feminist. Call me a feminist. I really don't give one crap one way or another, but I can tell you this. A lot of these men, these podcast hosts on the right that like to think of themselves as these big masculine men, and what am I getting out of it? I can tell you this.
There's that feminism.
All right, I believe I'm a woman of virtue, right?
Out.
Yeah, there's the feminism. Oh, and then you're interrupting me too,
Didn't
which
take
is great.
long,
I let
did
you
it?
talk.
Didn't
It's
take
my
long,
turn.
did it?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak over a man?
Yeah, I don't care if you call me. I don't really care if you call me a
strong,
feminist.
independent woman.
Yeah. Yeah. You're actually interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you when you were spewing your bullshit. So now it's my turn. Okay.
You mean the truth?
Like I said before. So I believe there we go again. Piers, I'm a woman of virtue. I happen to be independently successful. I have a husband who's not only a former professional athlete, but is currently a professional baseball coach. So is he not a masculine man? I mean, I'm confused here. What's your concept of a masculine man? Mine is a man who respects me.
Yeah, that misses the point, though. Like, you're still not contending with the argument that I'm making.
What's your point?
I'm saying inside of society, right this second, right, masculinity is not only punished, but also women on the right, covert feminists on the right, are constantly and consistently talking about how they need to have privilege in society. I want men. Their version of masculinity is men who take care of us, men who protect us, men who do all of this. Those are all duties that men have towards women. Great. What are the duties that women have towards men? What are the duties that women have towards anything? What do men get out of this arrangement? What are we getting out of this arrangement? Can you tell me?
I mean,
Well, I
as
would
I was going to
argue
answer
that
a
men
second ago.
innately
Well,
should
I'll
be
tell you-
I don't want to
protectors and
interrupt you.
providers.
Hang on one second. Let Tommy
Most
respond.
men are born that
Let
way.
Tommy respond to that, and then I'll come to you, Jez. And then Sean,
most
you've
men
been
are-
waiting patiently. So
most men are born to be protectors and providers. I can't imagine my dad saying, you know what, to my mom, you know what, I'm not going to be a protector and a provider unless you do this. That's not how real men operate. Real men are protectors and providers, and they marry women who hopefully
great.
have
A
some
woman telling
virtue,
us what
but
real
also
men
bring a
are
lot to
again.
the
Great.
table as well, that are great mothers, great wives, caretakers of the home. There's nothing wrong with being a traditional wife and mother. You're misunderstanding me if you think that I think that women should just be out doing whatever they want. I think that
I
there
love getting
are
lectured
gender
by
roles that
women
should
on
be
what real men
respected.
are. That's
but I
great.
don't think a man needs to get something out of it to be a manly man, a protector, and a provider. If you think you
So
need to
nothing.
get
So you
something
should
out
have
of it,
nothing.
I quite frankly don't consider you a
nothing.
real man.
Yeah, so you have
Okay.
nothing. So you have nothing.
But we'll
No women
discuss
have
in a
no
moment
duties,
whether
nothing.
Andrew
They just
Wilson
get
is a
privilege.
real man.
Piers, I
to,
offer nothing.
let's go to a real man, James Barr.
Thank you. I do see myself as a man, and I know that you'll be looking at me thinking, well, you're not. You're wearing makeup. You're wearing colourful clothes. Like, look at me. I'm really camp. My nails are
Yeah, I
painted.
mean, they are worrying
But, you know,
signs, I
you're
agree.
sat there smoking a cigarette. I'd love to get a vape out and start drinking a beer. You know, pints with the lads. Just connect with you over that. I think that you have some insane opinions on what women are meant to do for you. It's crazy that you don't appreciate that a woman actually gave birth to you. Like, she gave you a womb for 9 months and then looked after you, I would hope, for the beginning of your life. And you're sat there going, what do women owe men? Women don't owe men anything. No one owes you anything. You have your own
Okay,
life.
do you understand that if you make an argument and you say that
I've
women are
watched
supposed
your
to be
seminar on how to win an
in a
argument.
position, if women are supposed to be in a position of privilege where men do A, B, C, and D for them, and then I ask, well, what duties do women have? And you say, well, nothing.
How do we protect young men from the easy access at the moment there is to people like Tate? I mean, how do you actually put a ring fence around them so that you can tackle exactly what you've just said, but they're not also being dragged into that world?
It's tough because they're growing up in a world we never grew up in, Piers. We
No,
didn't
no.
grow up with the internet. We didn't grow up with Bumble,
that's right.
Tinder, Instagram, Facebook.
No, I was taught.
all
I
this
was
shit.
taught how to treat women by my mother, my grandmother.
Open the door,
my
right?
aunts,
Open the door.
A lot of strong women in my family, very strong women, and they would just take no crap from the men. So that's the environment I
Absolutely.
grew up in.
Absolutely. So how do we insulate our children from this? By having conversations, putting parameters around the social media aspects of life and having the conversations at home. Hey, son, hey, daughter, this is what you're going to see out there in the real world. This is what you're going to see on the internet. If you see something like this, that is not how a true man is supposed to act. And hey, that's not how a real man's supposed to treat you.
Right. So
We have to have the conversations.
Yeah, Andrew, do you intrinsically disagree with what you've just heard?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, all of this is always the burden on men. Burden on men. Burden on men. Men need to
No,
be
it's a
doing
family,
this. Men
Andrew.
need-
The family.
Hang on. Let
The
me finish,
family,
man.
Andrew.
Men need to
Husband and wife.
Okay, yeah. So let
Husband and
me
wife.
back up. Okay. Again, men need to do this. Men need to do that. What I'm talking about is what duties do women have in society? What are the actual women's duties towards men? Everybody is raised from the time they're kids how we're supposed to treat women. We all know how to treat women. We never talk about how men are supposed to be treated. That's almost never discussed, especially by how women are supposed to treat men, what their duties in society are. This has been completely dispelled. Guys like Tate have risen because Christianity itself has become a feminized religion, especially the Protestant sects has become completely feminized. And it didn't used to punish masculinity at all. And now it does. And so where's the alternative? Where's the spiritual alternative? It's nowhere. And we need to get back to this fundamental question of what even is misogyny? Because I don't think that men kicking the crap out of each other, being brutes, insulting each other, hazing each other, even bullying each other is misogyny. Not only do I not think it's misogyny, I think it's perfectly healthy.
Yeah, but I don't think that.
it's
I don't
perfectly
think that's
healthy,
misogyny.
well-adjusted.
Is that the
Yeah,
argument?
but that is not misogyny.
Well, no, hang on.
Wait, hang
How
on. But
women see
but that's-
this is tone
misogyny
policing.
is where you
They-
have a hatred or, whatever you want to phrase it, towards women. It's not about men treating men.
Sorry,
It doesn't matter
toxic
how we treat-
masculinity is what I'm referencing here, and toxic masculinity is what they're claiming leads to misogyny. So what I'm talking about is These are all masculine traits. There's nothing wrong with them, right? When you're talking about misogyny itself, I want to know what that even is. Is it just asserting yourself to women, telling women no, telling them no, that's bullshit?
No, I would say it's
wrong,
okay. Let me
telling them
answer
you're
you.
saying stupid things.
Andrew Tate says he's quite open about it. Women should stay at home. They shouldn't go out to work. They should do what he tells them. He's the king of the castle in his house. Blah 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 blah. That is misogyny, isn't it? You know, I've got a
That's
daughter. I've got a 13-year-old daughter. I don't want her thinking she can never leave the house. She's somebody's chattel.
It's not never leaving the house. Look, it is true that the world would be a better place if we didn't have it inverted and women did have a natural role at home and that was glorified and that there was government propaganda around the nuclear family and keeping women home. Why do you want to outsource the raising of children to strangers instead of your wife? That's a way better society. Why do you want your best and brightest women forced to go to a workplace instead of the best and brightest women staying at home raising their children? That's a way better system. It's always been a better system.
I guess we're talking freedom of choice.
That's not misogyny.
Women to do anything. It's freedom of choice. It's freedom of choice. I love the fact that my wife's out there working, teaching kids and building adolescents. I love that. I love that. And to your point about what do I get from a woman? I have a home. I have 3 beautiful children. I have communication in the house. And to me, that means more than anything. Like, I don't understand where I'm not saying you're wrong in your world, but to sit there and say to a woman, what do I get out of this woman? That's treating her like an object.
One thing I want to play a clip.
Okay, so it's okay to treat men like objects, give them duties,
I
but
don't
you're not
feel
allowed
like an
to give
object.
women duties.
I feel respected.
Okay,
in my
well, let me
home.
ask you this.
I'm not
How
angry
come it is
about
in the
it.
United States that men can be drafted? Women can't be drafted, but women can vote to send men to war. 18 years old, they're stabbing each other in the face with bayonets. Women can vote to send men to war that they then themselves do not have to fight. It's a duty that men have, they do not have. What's the counter duty for women? There's no obligation for women to have children, well under replacement rate. It's slated 45% of women will be single in the next 10 years, up to 60% in the next 30. That's the estimates right now. Our replacement rate, we can't even replace our own country's birth rates. That's how low they are.
Maybe
this is what we're seeing as a systemic issue inside of society because nobody will put duties on women.
Go on,
Instead,
James.
you just
Maybe it's men like you that are making that
Maybe that's why
happen.
the
Maybe you're the
replacement
problem.
rate is low.
Yeah,
Women don't
It's
have a
crazy to me
problem.
as well that you were just sat here.
Don't talk over each other. Let James speak.
I can't understand why you are sat there confidently thinking of yourself as a victim constantly. You have a platform and you're sat here like, I'm a victim. What are women doing for me? What happened in your childhood that has made you so traumatized as an adult that you cannot stand women succeeding? I'm so confused. I feel like the problem is not, and actually maybe this is our fault. Maybe this is the left's fault. Maybe this is modern society's fault for leaving people like you behind. But genuinely, we do not hate men, and toxic masculinity has been thrown around a lot. Ultimately, some of what you're saying is toxic, but that's not because you're a man. That's because you're an idiot.
All right.
Okay. So just to give you a quick rejoinder here, again, didn't contend with a single argument I made. You just said, why are you acting like a victim? While you're here talking about how women are
You're not
victims.
contending with arguments that other people
It's
have made.
wild to me.
Andrew Wilson, when was the last time you cried?
When I had a death in my family.
And how long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking?
Many, many, many years. Many years. I don't know, maybe a decade, something like that.
Right. So you haven't shed a tear in a decade?
I don't think so, no.
Would you see it inherently as a weakness in a man to over-emote?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Men, listen, you don't want men to fall to pieces in crisis. You're the head of a family. You're the head of your household. And also you're the heads of nations. You have a moral obligation not to fall to pieces. In fact, I would say you're duty-bound not to. You need to be able to control your emotions, and you need to be able to attempt to control them at all times. It's not to say that you're not going to lose control. Nobody's perfect. But I think that the idea of the stoic man is a much better prospect for the idea of like this leftist that I'm arguing with next to me on the panel. I would not want to be that guy, that person who just cannot control their internal emotions. They can't do it. And unfortunately, again, this is through the viewpoint of the feminine prism that it's only through empathy, right? Empathy first. And it's like, no, it's not always about empathy. It's also about reason. It's also about logic. It's also about understanding that we live in a carnal world full of warring tribes who are always killing each other. And that's part of the human condition. You can't afford to have your men losing control to emotion or to empathy.
James, when was the last time you didn't cry on a date? Let's flip the question around.
I haven't cried today, but I did cry yesterday, and I think it's okay to cry. And it's funny that you keep trying to goad me and saying that I don't have control of my emotions. I think I have incredible control over my emotions because I know what's upsetting me and when, and I'm able to talk about it.
Well, how often do you cry?
I mean, not all the time, but
every day?
No, not every day, Piers. I cried yesterday.
2 or 3 times
I probably
a week?
haven't cried for about 3 weeks before that. But honestly, my therapist tells me I need to cry, and it's a good relief.
But the point being, Andrew hasn't cried in 10 years.
I think that is such a weakness, Andrew, that you haven't cried in a decade. Like, that's crazy to me.
My therapist told me I could cry.
I'm so worried about you. I can't understand. Well, you're crying now, and please, I happily facilitated that for you.
I think we're seeing the two extremes that Tommy was talking about.
It's honestly, yeah, Tommy, you're so right. There's no nuance. I mean, it's difficult to have nuance on this show anyway, but we do need to find some in this debate.
I think the point is men should not feel they can never emote, but also they shouldn't be encouraged to believe if they're not constantly emoting. There's something wrong with them.
Well, of course, but also
that's where the pendulum's just gone too far.
You are also sort of guilty of this manosphere, Piers. You're very much in the manosphere yourself.
What do you think that means?
Well, it means that you think James Bond shouldn't cry, and that if he does, that's a weakness.
I want
and
James
that's
Bond
not
to
true.
be. I want him to seduce women.
Which he
I want him
does.
to be a ruthless, steely-eyed dealer of death to bad guys.
But also,
I want him to have a cigarette with his whiskey or his shaken
Andrew
lobster
here.
martini.
Maybe Andrew is your type.
And I don't want him sobbing like a baby all the
just
time.
want to say,
don't.
like Tommy might not.
Because guess what? When you're in Her Majesty's Secret Service, you don't have time to cry all the time.
Very sad news about Her Majesty, Piers. Sadly, she did pass away, and I'm sure you cried at that, which is completely
His
within your
Majesty
right.
now, obviously. But
Tommy,
actually,
probably,
the last Bond film was under Her Majesty, so I was correct.
Fine.